What? You're kidding. People here don't drink coffee in the morning? There's no better way to get energized than drinking a fresh cup of coffee before you start the day, man. What's with the look on your faces? You weren't expecting me to show up like this, were you? Oh, isn't this a shame? I was expecting some massive welcome party, but I didn't think you guys would be so heartless. Well, of course I understand. You're all probably wondering why a talented man such as myself applied to join such a shabby company, huh? It's totally suspicious and nonsensical, I get ya. Well, everyone has their own agenda. Ah, so you're A? I think I heard about you from Carmen. Speaking of which, it was Carmen's speech that really brought me here. Where is she right now? So you came, Sir Coffee Addict. Miss, it's Daniel. You can sit down here. The person that sits next to you will explain the details of your work. What, so you knew I was coming? I told you, no matter how great you may be, you will always be in the palm of my hand. Jeez, I thought you were being sarcastic. May I request one thing before I join you officially? Could we get a coffee machine here? I want everyone to know how good true freshly brewed coffee is. Daniel grabbed everyone's attention with his fancy suit that didn't fit in here at all. I vaguely remember Carmen had told me about him a few days prior, that one of the elites would stop by to apply to our company. He's a bit pompous, so don't believe everything he says, she said to me. I asked how she was able to recruit such an elite. Carmen answered nonchalantly, as if I had asked about something trivial. I'm a master at blowing people's minds. Don't you know that by now? Turns out that a revolution doesn't always have to be accomplished with bloodshed or the bearing of flags, manager. I've waited a long time for a savior. Someone who could free me from my inertia and wake me up inside. Wake me up inside. Why did I never come to the realization that I myself could be my own savior? Would you be so kind as to remember my mistake? It's very valuable to me. I hope your empathetic little rebellion taught you a few things. Do you still not understand the reason why I didn't stop you? I'm referring to the real reason why I watched you without immediately putting you through the replacement process like Tifereth. I wanted you to engrave your lessons onto that metal body, that your trifling resistance ended up costing the lives of your poor little employees who trusted in you until the end. I know the word death means nothing to you now, but to them it held meaning. That's weird, Lady Angela. Since when did you start caring about the deaths of our employees? That's rich, coming from the one who would gladly force a containment unit open just to garner a little more energy, isn't it? Yet here I was, clumsily going with your flow as I assisted you. However, don't go thinking this is entirely my loss. I know now that you don't really care about our condition. I know now that you weren't the one I should have been obeying. It's obvious that you should obey our manager and not me, Chesed. There's no need to state it out loud. You clearly know what I mean. I'm not going to let you do whatever you want now. You're such a loser, in the past and even now. Yes, I'm a failure. You don't have to point it out to me, but thanks anyway. However, although you may want to believe that nothing has changed, it is in fact that many things are changing. It rests on you now to resolve the mess you made, Chesed. Let's, as they say, bury the hatchet with any hard feelings between us. There is one thing I want you to know, though. No matter how great you may be, you will always be in the palm of my hand. I'm still afraid, manager. I'm still unsure if I can truly fight back against the fear I may face in the future. But I've decided not to run away, at the very least. So what are my orders, manager? We've got those who are faithful and trustworthy. With that lesson that Chesed taught us, we've reached 70% seed of light. My data analysis are now lacking in some degrees, as this is the first time we've reached this point. Everything from here on out is a mystery. I know that I'm not in a position to dare predict the outcome of your endeavors, but your task is not an impossible one. There is a real distinction between impossible and 0% possibility. Us machines say that when something will never happen after taking every possibility into consideration, it is a 0% possibility. Thus, my vision of you succeeding through every tribulation in the future is not impossible, but rather as a 0% possibility. However, I won't be disappointed if you fail. I am a machine, after all. Even if the sandcastle you've built up crumbles yet again, I'll be able to put up with it as if nothing happened. They say the world was a place where one couldn't find happiness at their own way of life anymore. That it was a world where everyone had to fool themselves into thinking that fitting in was to a structured mold was happiness. Nobody sought history or religion anymore, nobody needed those pillars. Under the guise of new innovations that were needed in the world, companies emerged using technologies known as singularities. Production of a permanent food supply, the manufacturing of customized living creatures, transportation of cargo at speeds that would seem like teleportation, artificial intelligence that was more real than people, the technology to preserve the present by binding time, et alia. Similar to the food chain, small companies began to disappear, or were eaten by the larger companies. At some point, they were called the wings of the world, and soon a head rose to control those wings. People started to derive their purpose for existence from belonging to the wings. However, the truth was, everyone was slowly melting like the wings of Icarus. They may appear to be encouraging the development of the world for the better, but their nature is no different from ours. There's always a price to pay. Any sane person would know that the deeds that the wings commit in the name of the betterment of society are in fact the most humiliating aspect of those corporations. They are the disgrace of the world and its people. Lobotomy corporations rival energy corporations aren't that different from us, I presume. Who knows, maybe they really are twisting dimensions to gather energy from hell, as the rumors say. In every man, the two instincts, the primal essence of life and death, coexist. The wings only guided our instinct of life. However, if one instinct were to dominate too much, the other would begin to make its move, slowly and unbeknownst to us, from the depths. Soon, a world where everyone wants to return to nothing will arrive. Into the stillness of silence before the birth of mankind. She who loved sunshine, who wanted to give hope to mankind but failed. When the hand that only wanted to embrace humanity with warmth was ruthlessly severed, you clutched the void and saw the crack between the boundaries that were never shown to others. Left alone, you decided to instill possibility and potential into all mankind. Hope and despair are intertwined in that possibility, making it impossible for anyone to know the answer. If all repressed things can be extracted from the earth, you said to yourself. In those days, you looked absolutely terrible. Many coworkers, friends, were worried about you and tried to comfort you, but you didn't care. You wouldn't listen to anything. I guess you still needed them at some point. Seeing as you were the one who locked them away in here, barely holding on to the husks of their dead bodies. The idea that I am sitting at the bottom, oblivious to what is happening up there. It is an idea you might think of as true. However, it is in truth you who was unknowing. Pain, agony, regret, and the shadows of the past that would never release their grip on you. They've spent quite a number of days with you, but it is nothing compared to our time together. In the end, they never got to know you to the fullest. Those who could not accept their fate seem to have directed their anger towards you. Such as that one man, he who gradually broke himself whenever he was ordered to redact information. What are you talking about? Yes on? No way. The unnecessary leakage of an emotion is unfavorable. There is something I need to show you, so you can understand. There once was an employee named Anya. She lived with her parents and her little sister. She eagerly wanted to study, but her family's financial state wouldn't allow her. Still, she tried to join one of the wings. However, she just wasn't good enough for them. Poor Anya was struggling to figure out what to do next. She even considered ending it all as a last resort. That was until she received a letter from a wing. A letter that had a simple yet magical line penned to it. You are qualified to join the Lobotomy Corporation. Awestruck, Anya read through the letter over and over again. It didn't seem like anyone was pulling a prank on her, nor that it was a mistake on the mail courier's part. For a brief moment, Anya wondered if she even applied to work at Lobotomy Corporation at all. But she soon shook that thought off. That was not important in the slightest. I took the role of the courier. I was the one who delivered the letters to people. I evaluate candidates to determine if they may join here or not, and bring a miracle to those who are qualified. Anya was not selected because she had excellent skill. She had a common trait that every person we hired had, but wasn't aware of. As you know, to become a feather, a part of the wing, one has to be immensely better than ordinary people. How could Anya, who dropped out of high school, had no special talents, and lived in the back streets, manage to get into our company? Would her family finally be able to pursue happiness? All of this happened 10 years ago. During those 10 years, her sister fell ill and passed away, along with her parents. Where is Anya now, with her entire family gone? She is asleep down here. It is wholly under my jurisdiction to handle this, but I'll grant you access just this once. Call her up, please. Now Anya is at work, feeling like she is a brand new employee who just joined the company, completely oblivious to the fact that it has been 10 years since she actually joined us. You could, perhaps, choose to pay a small cost to augment her virtues, such as fortitude or prudence, if you wish. Now, try to erase her, please. How do you feel? The Anya who was killed by a monster, and the Anya whom you just erased are one and the same. They both evanescently lost their lives. It is such a futile action to wake them and erase them to slumber, again and again. Both your attachment to the employees, and the Sephiroth's care and devotion poured into them, become meaningless here. Everything that moves and is alive in this facility is on pause. They await the next morning with their eyes shut tight every night. Those of the layers above did not know that. They spent themselves emotionally for their deaths which they were present in. Bearing obscure resentment in their hearts, they put all the blame on those like you, then they crumbled just like that. I urge you not to worry about me. I will not dare to do such a thing. I have always wanted to be an important part of your life. So in summary, all the employees here have been here for at least 10 years, looping over and over again, constantly being killed and resurrected by Hokma. That's how we can keep getting new employees, even though we're underground where no one can reach us. Because they're just the same group of people being resurrected over and over again. Also, the loop has taken at least 10 years of real time. That's how many cycles we've gone through. And remember that the cycles are less than 50 days. Anyway, Hokma's next mission is to clear the day with 8 or more employees whose temperance is 100 or more. It's just the same thing, but with temperance instead. And we are going to expand Hokma Bina. Haha, I tricked him. So Chesed's bonus is once a day for each employee. If they would die by taking HP or SP damage, or die or panic, then they have a 25% chance to not die or panic. It's not really that great. It doesn't work on instant kill stuff like Big Bird's attack either. It's more importantly, Chesed's stuff can't melt down anymore, although there's not really anything super dangerous in there besides tree sap, which he's just been ignoring when it melts down. But more importantly, every Sephiroth has been suppressed, their core, except for the lower layer now. That's pretty good. We're taking the fortitude buff because it's more important than prudence. Well, it's been a little bit, but welcome back to the Lobotomy Corporation. This is day 41, almost to the end, but we're going to start the last 2 suppressions. We can't do it in one loop. We have to do it in 2. So we have to we have to do 2 day 41s and etc. This means that training does not matter on any of these days because we're going to undo what we did on these days. Also, if employees die, I don't really care that much, but I'm still going to probably make sure they don't die, just because. We will be using the return to memory repository option, so we'll be returning to the start of this day, essentially, when we're done with the first suppression in the lower layer. And I'm going to go for Bina's first because it is less good for training, and we want to keep training. Although there's an argument to do Hokma's first. With that said, let us do the day. Snow Queen is an HE level abnormality that does light damage. It prefers insight and attachment work, making it as a good insight trainer in the HE tier. It has a unique gimmick, but no Quilthoth counter. On a small chance on a normal result and a high chance on a bad result, an employee who gets that result will have an icy shard plunged into their chest. If an employee with that gets another bad result or fails to roll a normal result, they will be frozen in a block of ice. From here, the next employee sent to work on Snow Queen will engage in a duel to save the first employee. The higher the duelist's fortitude is, the higher the chance of succeeding, up to 100% after level 5 fortitude. If they succeed in the duel, both the duelist and the victim gain a unique gift which provides plus 6 HP and SP. Otherwise, they both die. If the person encased in ice is not rescued by the end of the day, they also die. This makes Snow Queen's gift uniquely easy to farm, but it's still not really worth it because it's just plus 6 to HP and SP, so whatever. Her armor is also not great, as you only get 2 copies and it has a massive red weakness, which is more important for HEs than it is for WAs, because WA armor takes reduced damage from green noons, HE armor does not. Her weapon is pretty good though. It's a white damage spear. Spears are just strong, and white damage is one of the most useful damage types in the game. Although it's a bit power crept by a wall level white damage spear, but whatever. A certain one that we haven't seen yet. Overall, she's pretty decent for her tier if you need an insight trainer, but nothing to write home about. We've cut midway into the day just because that footage you saw with Quinn and Joy working on Snow Queen in the Snow Queen bio was actually canon. No one died, and honestly, I wanted to keep the unique gift, so I was just like, eh. I don't really like farming for Snow Queen's gift. It can kind of apparently be kind of glitchy if you're doing it with more than one person in the same day, but in the end, we're only doing it with those 2. Probably for the entire run. And I think it's going to be reset anyway when we rewind back, but I just wanted to keep it. Because I'm weird. Realistically, there's no reason. We're not really worrying about stat training because all the stats will be undone, so we're kind of trying to turbo through the day, working with random stuff. And since there's nothing really going on besides getting Snow Queen's equipment, I guess I could just talk about how I feel about the different threat levels or something like that, and that's what I'll do. So, there are 5 different levels of threat in this game: Zayn, Teth, HE, Wa, Aleph. You've seen them all by this point. And they actually matter a lot in terms of what you can do with the abnormality. Zayans are never really good for your facility, unless they're tools. There are a few Zayn tools that are really helpful, but tools are, in general, a separate category. I don't judge them by the same properties as you would judge a normal abnormality, because they can't train or give equipment, and that's the number one and number 2 things you judge abnormalities on most of the time. Zayans are never good. Teths are only good in the early game. If you're rewinding after you completed a HUD suppression, Teths are also no longer good. Just because Teths are only good for getting stats from level 1 to level 3. Once you've completed a HUD suppression, stats start at level 3. HE or Hey, or however it's supposed to be pronounced, that's the first tier of abnormality where it's good throughout the game. As soon as you can get it, which is around like day 6 or 7. It's not in the first department, that's for sure. As long as you can handle them, whichever one you're picking up is generally a good choice to try to take HE level abnormalities. Just because their equipment's much better and their training potential is much better. They're like the first thing you could potentially like cap a stat with, working a sane number of works in one day. Technically you could cap with tests and Zayans, it would just take forever. It takes a lot longer to cap with a HE than a WA. WAs are what you want most for facility to be. They're also the most populated level, so that's pretty nice. It's very good for getting up the super good fighters geared up, and they offer more gear than Alephs too, so that's also nice having them around. And then Alephs are not really good for training, just because most of them require high stats to be worked on successfully. Just because they will either output an obscene amount of damage and need good armor that requires level 5 stats to resist, or they literally have a stat floor of level 5 stats to be worked on in the first place, and those are usually in the stats that they train. There are a few exceptions to this, but we haven't seen them yet. Notably, you've seen Quinn get their stats up pretty high working with Censored. It's just that most of our employees wouldn't really be able to survive working with Censored, they'd go insane. Quinn specifically set up to do it, and if they go insane because they're working on Censored's cool health counter decreases, and we just don't want to see Censored breach. We can handle it, or we can just have the rabbits handle it, but I don't know, I don't want to see it. That's that. I've done enough rambling about the threat levels. I think it's time to cut to new content, because there's still new stuff happening even this late into the game. And that new stuff, I've mentioned before, it's Indigo Noon. This technically could have shown up all the way back on around day 26. It's supposed to show up either close to or before you see Tiferet talk about it for the first time, because it is these sweepers. These are entities that roam the back streets and the outskirts. We've been told about them in cutscenes before. They come at night. That's basically all you need to know about them in the context of this game. And when they spawn as an ordeal, they are the fourth choice for a new ordeal once they're able to be spawned in, and they'll spawn in like 3 to 4 packs across the facility. And they just kind of wander around. They do a lot of black damage. They're basically the black damage equivalent to Green Noon. And they also hurt themselves when they attack due to a glitch. They're supposed to heal themselves, but it converts the damage into a negative number, and then I believe it heals them for that negative number, because it tries to heal them at 2 different points during that code. Good job, Project Moon. They do have a healing mechanic that actually does work, though. If they get to a corpse, they'll eat it and heal up for full. So try to prevent that from happening, because it makes them last a lot longer. They can do a lot of black damage pretty fast, much like Green Noons do with red damage. They're one of the reasons why black damage is important. Right now it's more important than red resist. Although all the damage type resistance is nice. In my opinion, it just goes black #1 priority, red, then pale, then white. Most of the time. Your facility might change because there are a couple white damage abnormalities that would make me want to prioritize having white equipment on, or heavily resistant to white equipment on, but we haven't seen them yet. And with this one dead, that's the last of Indigo Noon. At the end of the day, because I just wanted to do Indigo Noon. That's the reason why I did the last of this song. And that's it for the day. The training doesn't really matter at all because all these techniques will be reset. What does matter is that we cleared another mission, because mission progress is kept through resets and rewinds, as well as gear. So this abnormality in the last tool will also be reset, but we just really want an Aleph. All 3 of these are really good choices though. It's 2 Alephs and a Wah, and the Wah is one of the best weapons in the game for Wahs, so I don't think I will be rewinding or re-extracting. Although this is the one I want the most probably, because it was something I wanted for Geberis suppression specifically, and we lacked it then, but I kind of doubt we'll see it. We are not going to see it. We will instead see my personal favorite Aleph, so cool. And now it is time for Book Lore, an ancient-looking religious book that rests on top of a skinny lectern. Its numerous pages are written on an old parchment. Its believers prayed that its sanctity would last forever by binding the tome in human skin. Those who open the book will be enlightened to unimaginable truths. The ones who have mastered the truths will be called by the prophets. This call cannot be denied. Save us now and forevermore. The truth shall set us free. What a beautiful story.